Hi, good evening, and welcome to this evening's Instagram Live. I think it's turning into our Wellness Wednesday lives. I think I should put some name on them because I've been doing them since November. But you're all very welcome, and for any of you that are new to my page, you're very welcome as well. My name is Louisa Cooling, and I am a nutrition and lifestyle coach. And I work with busy people and help them transform the way they eat and they live so that they can improve their health and reach their health goals, whether that is to sleep better, to have more energy, to manage stress, and to get to a happy weight. Whatever it might be, as I always say, I look across the 4 pillars of health, which are nutrition, sleep, self-care, and exercise. And I think that's something that I have in common with my guest tonight, Catherine O'Keefe, also known as the Wellness Warrior.ie, and I'm absolutely delighted to have Catherine on this evening to be discussing the whole topic of menopause. Now, menopause is something, obviously, I'm just going to patch her in here, that as women we all go through, yet I think the level of knowledge is very varied, and there still is a lot of uncertainty and maybe even anxiety when it comes to menopause. And that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. And also, I think, it's fair to say that while I'm waiting for the connection to take, that no two people and no two women experience the same journey. I think it may be a case that there are a lot of common symptoms. However, no two people will experience them in the same way. So it's not letting you join. Okay. Wait till I see. Well, I'll cancel that, Catherine, and let me see if I can get you in another way. I had a problem with the internet connection when I went to sign on there earlier on. Oh, hello.
Okay. There we go.
Oh, listen, it never gets any easier. Every Wednesday, I'm like, holding my breath. Anyway, how are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. Now I'm seeing myself in shaded. Are you seeing that, or
You're a
do you?
You're a little bit dark. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I don't know why that is, because I have good lighting here, but for some reason it's coming up. Let me just check something here.
Okay.
There, I'm just playing with Instagram. Here, let's see how that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's a little bit better now.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Yeah, we're good. We're good.
You were good. Catherine, you're so welcome. And I should have said at the introduction, I mean, I'm so excited to have you on. You're Ireland's first menopause coach. I mean, that is a title in itself. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that as my husband's and the boys. I have 3 boys, right? So no girls in our house, but they're always saying, all we hear about in our house is menopause.
I know. And actually, you know what? I know you did that fantastic podcast with Sheila Shoiga, and I was listening to it, and I laughed when I heard your story about your youngest 8-year-old asking
Siri about menopause.
And he knew more about menopause than Siri did. I thought that was just hilarious.
That was so funny. I think it was during Easter, or it was before Easter, and I was downstairs and I could hear him. And I didn't know who he was talking to, so I went up, and next thing I was just outside, and I was like, "Who are you talking to?" And I could understand he was asking Siri about menopause. And then he comes out to me, he's like, "Siri doesn't know anything about menopause."
He'll be able to teach Siri.
Yeah, it's funny.
I know.
Well, hi, Sharna.
Lots of people are coming on, and you're also welcome. And it's Catherine O'Keefe, the Wellness Warrior, the fountain of knowledge, she who knows everything that is about menopause. And Catherine, as you know, I put out a lot of sort of opportunities for people to ask questions, and they have. And I think we've a lot to get through this evening. And
just fire them at me. Just fire them at me.
I've tried to group them, and again, I'd say to people, if there are other questions, just type them in. We'll get to them this evening or another time, or we'll do our best, but just jump on board. Go ahead.
Before we even start, can I just say, I don't know if anyone sees, my cheeks are quite glowing at the moment. That's thanks to Sharon Malone. She has me on this beautiful new skincare regime, kind of aging skin. I have to say, God, I'm loving it. But anyway, I just see she joined there. So thank you, Sharna.
Great, you'll have to share that as well.
Yeah.
We'll be tapping into that. Anything to support the skin.
Yes,
In
yes.
addition to the water and the hydration, which is
Yes, yeah.
obviously.
You know I'm always going on about water. I get
Oh,
messages.
listen.
I get messages from followers the whole time saying, "Catherine, you're making me pee. Will you stop going on about water?"
It passes after a while, literally.
Yeah.
So, Catherine, I'm going to start off. I grouped them, and maybe we'll start with perimenopause, and
Yeah.
just because there's been a few questions in terms of how to recognize it, when it
Yeah.
might start, etc., and the
Yeah.
symptoms, and then we can look at the supports.
Okay.
So,
So yeah, quickly to if we just go through the kind of the different phases, stages, and so forth. Let's just work backwards. Okay. So menopause itself is the anniversary of 12 months without a period. So it's literally like it's a birthday. That's what we generally say. 12 months without a period is what menopause is. Then you can have a 1 or 2 year period following that date where you might get one more period, you might not, you might never have another one. Once you pass, can't kind of say it's generally 1 to 2 years for each woman, you're then in post-menopause. Post-menopause is not a stage. Post-menopause is the rest of your life. Okay. So that's post-menopause, menopause. It all starts, for me, it all starts with perimenopause, which is basically all those years leading up to the cessation of the periods. But it's not just the periods, it's all the other symptoms that come on. On average, 45 is the general age when most women will start perimenopause. But I have to say, I'm definitely seeing it starting earlier, as in I'm seeing the psychological emotional realm is the first place where you generally start to see changes. And that really happens that can happen from the early 40s onwards, but I definitely would say 43, 44. I'm starting to work with a lot of women who are starting to experience it at that stage. But and a lot of times what you find is most women can be waiting for the periods to change, but it's not. It's generally, for the most part, it's the psychological aspects that will change first, where you mightn't feel as confident, you might feel a little bit more anxious, you just feel a little bit more off kilter, you just don't feel yourself.
Yeah.
And that would be, to me, it's much more important to watch out for that, because if you kind of let that spiral and you don't start looking after yourself in that respect, then it becomes harder, as say the hot flushes come in, the night sweats, the insomnia, the brain fog, as more and more symptoms come on board, it can become more challenging.
And I think that's lovely, because I think that is exactly it in a nutshell. We assume that nothing is changing until perhaps the cycle changes to a shorter or a longer. But there are an awful lot of other subtle changes. And even bringing it back into your 30s, there's probably so much that we can do to support this change that will happen at whatever stage it happens. But as you rightly say, those psychological, the things of anxiety, we can do so much from a diet and lifestyle perspective very early on to help us through this stage. Yeah.
The challenge you get there in terms of looking at it in your 30s is that for many women, we're having children later. I mean, I had my third child at 41. I'd had a miscarriage, I think, a few months before I conceived him. We are having children later. So for many women, when you're in your late 30s and sometimes even your early 40s, and well, for a lot of women in their early 40s, you're not going to want to think about menopause because you're more focused on possibly fertility, if that is the journey that you're on. So I think, in an ideal world, you would be starting to prep in your late 30s, certainly in your early 40s. But I mean, look, everyone's on a different journey, and I think the fertility aspect of it is quite important as well, in terms of just, for many women having children older. And, don't forget too, you can still conceive when you're in perimenopause. It doesn't mean that you can't. You can, and you can be just as fertile at different stages.
Sure. I guess the point is, though, that those changes across the pillars of health will support you at any stage of life,
Yeah,
whether you're
yeah,
still
yeah.
trying to conceive or whether you are. It kind of is a lifestyle way that will help you in any event.
Totally. Yeah, no, big time, big
Yeah,
time. I mean, it's
yeah.
the preparation is paramount, but I think the being informed and having the knowledge about, what the symptoms are so that you can actually understand and prep. And then the other thing, Louise, that we face in Ireland is that unfortunately in a lot of cases, if a woman goes to her GP and says, she's feeling a bit off kilter, she's feeling a little bit anxious, where there's many circumstances antidepressants are prescribed, and most definitely when it comes to perimenopause, they wouldn't be the first line of treatment. And I mean, then you get into the whole different aspect of kind of, whether someone's looking at HRT, complementary medicine, etc. But I think it's really, really important that if you knew sitting in your GP surgery that, I think this is perimenopause, you're more empowered to actually look at different options, look at different choices. Because if you get anxiety, low grade anxiety, and if you get it earlier on, you can keep a handle on it, but the key is just not putting your head in the sand and ignoring it. And that happens a lot, a
Okay.
lot, a lot, a lot.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
I would kind of, encourage, kind of that we look at those things, head on, face on,
Okay.
really.
Okay. So what would the main symptoms be then to look out for? Say a lady in her early mid 40s, whatever it might be, what might those little symptoms be to kind of be aware of?
Well, I think the emotional side of it. Look for a change in your confidence, a change in your self-esteem, just that change of just feeling a little bit anxious, feeling a little bit off kilter, not feeling yourself. Certainly the first place to start. Then it may be that your periods will change. But for me, for example, when I was 45, my periods were as regular as clockwork, and I was definitely in perimenopause. And, for many years, my periods have been as regular as clockwork. I think once I hit 50, it was like, right, bang on the door, we're going to start acting up. So don't look at the periods as being the first thing to change. I'm always saying that because so many women get confused with it. So then you're looking at the more physical symptoms in terms of, the hot flushes, the night sweats, the insomnia, maybe the weight gain where your metabolism slows down and you're not able to keep a handle on your weight like you might have done before. I mean, look, there's over 43 menopause symptoms.
Really?
Oh,
Okay.
there is. So there's a whole host of them. And it's very, very important to remember no two women will have the same menopause. So my experience of it versus yours or anybody else watching are going to be completely different. And it's really, really important to me that women understand that for themselves, but not only for themselves, but also for compassion towards other women, because I see it a lot in terms of we can sometimes maybe feel like pushing our thoughts onto maybe our best friend, maybe our sister, our cousin, whoever it is, whereas it's always really, really important to remember that it's your individual journey. So what works for you is going to be very different to what works for somebody else. The other thing, when you are looking at, say, you're in your age 45 and you are looking at, what else changes, it's anything in the body. It's skin changes. It's your skin may become drier, aches and pains. Headaches are very, very common. But one thing that I always say is it's very good to be in the habit of, on a yearly basis, definitely from 45, if not younger, having a check-in with your GP. And the reason for that, not because the bloods are going to tell you that, Catherine, you're in perimenopause. They're going to rule out any other issues, like that you have issues with your thyroid, that you have issues with iron, you're anemic, your vitamin D, your B12, etc., etc. So that is the benefit of having the check with the GP, not to tell you where you are in menopause, because there is no, there's an FSH blood reading you can get, but that changes. That changes from what you read on a Monday to what you read on a Friday. It will be different. So it's not used even by doctors as guidance for menopause. It's very much going by the symptoms. But it is a good habit to be in, because a lot of times, I'll speak with women, and they might present with a lot of symptoms very similar to perimenopause, but actually they're anemic, or actually they have a thyroid issue. So that's where, if you are feeling the tiredness and, some of those earlier symptoms, it's a good idea just to get the bloods done to kind of check and see where you're at.
Yeah. And then you have a baseline, because if you get them done every year, you can pick a trend, because at any point in time, everything might look okay and be within what is acceptable.
Yeah.
However, if there's a movement, a decline or an increase in certain things, but it helps you kind of build a picture, I think that, and I do, as you say as well, I think we all need to be a little bit more informed, so that when we go into the surgery, we're a little bit more confident, and we feel we can ask the question. And
I mean, it's very important, and it's not because, it's going to determine what you do in terms of, whether you're looking at HRT, whether you're looking at other medication, whether you're looking at lifestyle, complementary, etc. But what it does do, it gives you another angle, and it gives you another kind of, to me, it's another key in the toolbox, that it's another essential part of the journey, that you've got, right, okay, I know what's going on here. That's sorted. I tick that box. And then you can look at all the other areas that maybe you have to work on, if it's your sleep or your diet, or, whatever it is.
Okay. Can I ask you a few questions, particularly related to perimenopause? So the first one is breast tenderness a symptom?
Yes.
Period. Yes. Okay.
Yes. And that's a really good question, because this happened to me, and this is very common. One of my earlier symptoms of perimenopause was the return of PMT. I would have had PMT when I was younger, and then I had my 3 boys, and I never had PMT. I hadn't had it for years. And then when I was in my, I think I was about 44, I started to get PMT again, where before my period, my breasts would feel more tender. I'd get bloated. I was definitely moody. And that used to happen probably about maybe 5 days, maybe 7 days before. So return of any PMT symptoms is very, very common, particularly in the early stages of perimenopause. And that breast tenderness is extremely common. And that would be all tied into the estrogen and the decline of the other hormones, but primarily the estrogen there in relation to the breast, that happens as we go through the transition. What I would say there, obviously make sure you're doing your breast check on a regular basis, that you're kind of keeping an eye, for any lumps and everything. I really encourage women now to do a monthly check. And that monthly check, I was talking about this a lot last year in terms of what that entailed, and I know I was getting a lot of reaction, but ideally your monthly check it's a bit like date night with yourself, not maybe the sexiest date night, but but it has a purpose. And my reasoning for that was that you are checking your breasts, and then also that you are getting a small mirror and you're actually checking your vulva, because vaginal atrophy, vaginal dryness is a huge part of, can be for many women, a huge part of the menopause transition. So if you know what your vulva looks like externally, you will know if there's changes. You will understand if there's inflammation. You will understand if there's any kind of dryness that starts to happen as the years progress. And also what you find too, in the pelvic region is that if you've had episiotomy scars from childbirth, they can really stretch as you get older, and the skin can become really thin. So it can be really important to kind of make sure that you're putting some oil there and just kind of keeping the area moist, that you're preventing kind of any further soreness down the line. But so it's very, very important that we do that, as well as, like, you know, doing your cervical smear, doing all the other bits. We definitely are not good at doing it. We definitely are not comfortable with, you know, I think being familiar with our pelvic, with all of our pelvic area, internally and externally. And that is one thing that I do talk a lot about. And I stopped because I was talking so much about it. But it's something I do need to go back to at some stage, because I see it every single day. I can guarantee you, Louisa, every single day I'll work with a woman who has issues around the pelvic. Either it's inflammation, it's dryness, it's incontinence, stress incontinence, or something. So preemptive action is much better.
Okay. Is coconut oil any good for that?
Yeah, you can definitely use coconut oil. Just make sure it's obviously organic, extra virgin. Dr. Coy's is a good one. I would use that. There's loads of different products that you can use. Just if you're ever using anything around, you know, externally on the vulva or internally on the vaginal walls, you must patch test it on your skin externally beforehand. You have to, because I have seen the downside of people not patch testing.
Okay, good. Okay, there's a couple of questions that I think are linked in or around perimenopause. It's like women probably around 49, 50, they have there's a couple of them in common. They may not have had a period from anything between 3 to 8 months.
Okay.
And they've either been following a sort of a low glycemic load, or eating and living in a way to balance their blood sugars, or having reflexology, and periods have come back. Now, that to me is just perimenopause, but is that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, reflexology is actually amazing when it comes to menopause. It's amazing. And why is it so amazing as a therapy? I mean, it's amazing for the body as a whole because it cleanses of toxins. But I think the most important thing is because of that cleansing of toxins that happens with reflexology, the support that goes to the liver is really important. And the liver is a key organ in menopause, and it's understated, it's undermined, it's not given the support it should be given. So certainly reflexology is a huge one. You know, acupuncture would be similar, but you would certainly find if your periods have gone for a period of time, and then you maybe start different therapies or herbs or something, they certainly can come back. And perimenopause is the time where it's a bit like a boomerang. They'll come, they'll go, they'll come, they'll go, and there's no rhyme or reason. You know, it's not one size fits all at all, I'm afraid. You can have some women who, you know, might get 3-4 periods a year at the age of 47. You've others who will get them regularly up to 48, 49. There's no rhyme or reason.
No, and again, there was a question around what's the healthy age to hit perimenopause. But I think I could tie that in as well with, you know, early menopause, because there's one person has put in that she's in menopause since, well, she thinks she hasn't had a period since she was 40, and she's now 45. So
okay. Let's talk about that separately in a minute, because, you know, that's very different. The medically, they would say 45 is the average age for a woman to start perimenopause. I definitely am seeing it earlier from the psychological aspect. So I think that is just important to be aware of. It's not like you kind of say when is the healthy age to start, because it really just, there's no healthy age. It really just depends on everything that's gone in your life before you. And, you know, there can be anything that will put things off kilter. Like, you know, say, for example, I've worked with women who may have had major grief and that major grief may have triggered what they thought was perimenopause, but then their periods come back because of the shock and stress and so forth. So it really, really depends. If your periods have stopped at the age of 40, what you need to look at there is the fact that the average age is 45. So if your period stopped at 40, and if you've confirmed that your estrogen supply has depleted, your progesterone, possibly your testosterone as well, and your FSH level is saying at the age of 40 that it's really high and you're post-menopause, then you need to look at you're actually not just 5 years, you're more, because the average age of menopause is 51. So that could mean if you're in post-menopause at 40, then you're 10 years ahead of, say, the average woman. What you need to look at then is future proofing your heart health, your bone health, your brain health, but primarily your heart and your bones. And then you get into the realm of you need to be looking at how are you going to do that. If you're age 40 and you are post-menopause, it's in, you've had that confirmed by your FSH level, and that's the only instance I would do it there is with early menopause, because when it comes to early menopause, the tests that are done are very different to your standard blood tests, and that's where you really need to make sure that your GP is experienced with early menopause or is willing to do more extensive blood work. And then what you get into is, well, what are you going to do to protect your bones, to protect your heart? And you're looking at, is it HRT? Are you looking at supporting it through your diet, through your lifestyle, etc., etc.? So
Catherine, can I just ask you one thing? Why is it more important to consider these things if you go into early menopause? It was just that point you said.
Yeah. Because if you go back to the average ages, right, at 50, at 51,
Yes.
I'm just going to make this really basic. Let's say at the age of 51, you have, now I'm just giving you this to kind of, to make the points clear for people. But let's say at the age of 51, you've got 50% of estrogen left in your, no, actually it'd be more. Let's say at the age of 51, you've got 20% of estrogen left in your body, okay? Estrogen is protective. Estrogen protects our heart. Estrogen protects our bones. There's protective mechanisms that come with all of the hormones, particularly with estrogen. So if you've lost that at the age of 51, then you've had 10 years, 11 years ahead of, say, somebody at the age of 40. At the age of 40, you've already possibly lost the protective element of the hormones. So you have to replace that. You have to make sure that you're making up for it, because otherwise it may be, depending on your supply, that you are now 10 years ahead. I hope that makes sense. So instead of at 40, you may have 30% of your estrogen left. The average woman may have 30% of her estrogen left at 51. So do you see the difference, that you have that gap?
You are making up a gap. And I know, I mean, there's a lot of questions in on HRT, and it's a difficult type of a subject. I mean, there would be people in the UK, doctors, who would recommend that every woman goes on HRT in terms of protecting bone and brain and heart. So there are a number of different views and options.
I think with the brain side of it, I know Dr. Lisa Mosconi, the neuroscientist in New York. Lisa is still doing her research, and Lisa, is not saying definitively yet that you need to go on HRT to protect your brain. I think that's ongoing daily research that's changing. I think when you look at, certainly if you've got young girls, young women in early menopause, which generally is under the age of 40, you definitely have to look at HRT and the right form of HRT. And that's very, very particular to a person's history. So say, for example, my POI group, which is the premature ovarian insufficiency, that's young girls and young women with early menopause. You could not you could not let a young girl at the age of 18 go through life without replacing the hormones that she is lost. You just couldn't do it. Um, that would be so wrong. It's you have to replace them, because
Yeah.
otherwise her bone health, can you imagine at 18 she'll have lost so many years, and that's just talking about the bone side of it. I think HRT has changed dramatically in the last kind of 10 years or so. And I mean, a lot of we know there was a lot of flaws in the media, or not the women's health study that was done years ago. There was a lot of gaps there, etc. So with everything, you've got to make an informed choice. It's really, really important that you understand what the risks are. And when it comes to HRT, the form of HRT that you're looking at is key. That's where you get into the transdermal, local estrogen are the first places you're looking at. But it is a big one. It is a big one.
Just on that as well, and there's another question, if somebody has been on it for she's 51, she's been on it for 3 years, at what point do you start to maybe come off it?
I mean, that really depends. At 53, you're possibly still experiencing menopause symptoms at 53 easily. I mean, I've worked with women in their 60s who are still having hot flushes. The hot flushes, I would say, tend to be the very last symptom to go. It may well be that the HRT is working very nicely for that lady, and it could be that it's kind of managing everything. That's going to be a conversation to have with your GP in terms of how long how long is she on it? I think
she said 3 years. She's only 51, but she's been on it for 3 years. A lot of symptoms have reduced. The only one that's staying, I think, was the hot flushes. That was the only one.
And they tend to be they can be the one that kind of linger. But that's really up to sitting down with her GP, talking about it, understanding the form of HRT that she's on, and understanding the risks and benefits, because we know transdermal and local estrogen, transdermal HRT has, the risks are different, but saying that HRT is different to what it was years ago. So the overall risks versus the benefits are different to what they would have been broadcast as. So that's why it's just so important to make informed decisions. And whatever you're doing, make sure you understand why you're doing it. And the other, this is something I'm going to be doing a lot of work on over the next week or two, around the whole area of being informed, because we are not good at taking the power into our own hands in terms of our medical journey. We need to do that. We need to be able to question what we're being given. We need to be able to question simple things like what's on a script. We need to be able to question simple things like, maybe advice that we're given from our GP or our gynae or whoever it is. We're all human. So people can make mistakes. People can have opinions, but it's really important when it comes down to it. It's your health and it's your journey. So I say that when it comes to HRT, I say it when it comes to supplements. You need to look at the labels, you need to know what's in there, and you need to understand why you're taking it. Let's say perfect example is the Mirena coil. If I was to go out now and ask a series of people, what hormone is in the Mirena coil, many women don't know. And the Mirena coil is progesterone. So if you're on HRT, that can be your progesterone element of it. It's just, it's an area that I don't know if it's an Irish thing or what it is, but actually, I know it's not an Irish thing. I know it's a global thing, because I have spoken to many women in the UK. It's the same thing. But we just need to be empowered to question. We need to be empowered to be able to go into our GP and kind of say, well, yay or nay, or yes or no, I don't want to take antidepressants. We need to have that empowerment, and that's where knowledge is key.
Yeah. And it's probably a case as well, Catherine, the whole approach of medicine, we're not really on the whole functional medicine, continuum yet, in terms of looking at the whole body and the causes. And, doctors are doing a fantastic job. Absolutely. But it's more treating treating an illness when you get there, as opposed to
Yeah,
maybe trying to look at the causes and trying to
yeah,
support a person
yeah.
through diet, lifestyle,
Yeah.
supplementation, or whatever. So,
The
and just
biggest
yeah,
the biggest trigger I feel, and I just know this from countless women I've worked with, stress is a massive,
yeah,
massive trigger for many of the menopause symptoms. Massive,
yeah,
massive.
yeah. We might come on to that in a minute, because absolutely, I think it's and I think there's so much more levels of stress around at the moment.
Mm,
And
mm,
then going through this stage of life when we're experiencing things that we're just not sure of, that in itself can cause anxiety when you're not
mm.
quite sure.
Yeah,
I just want to ask
yeah,
you one thing, if you don't mind, Catherine. I know I'm firing a lot at you, but there was
it's
one
fine.
particular question on the Marina coil. Um, Particular lady, 49, Marina coil in for 2 years due to periods becoming very heavy and no set
Okay.
cycle. So for the last 6 months, she's getting hot flushes and sweating even on the coldest nights. So is
Mhm.
sweating at night normal? My sleep is non-existent, and I'm
Mm,
starting to find it
mm,
extremely tough. I mean,
mm.
that is a very, isn't it, common?
Yeah, very common. And the thing is, uh, there's an element of protection, or not protection. There's obviously there's the contraception side of the Mirena coil, but there also is the progesterone that comes through the Mirena coil. So that's probably been maybe keeping things going nicely, maybe. Whereas now, the kind of, maybe her body's just given out a little bit more because it's not happy with the hormone decline that's been happening gradually over the last few years. And the symptoms that you're discussing are very typical. The hot flushes, the night sweats, the lack of sleep. The key there is that it's really important. It's so important to get a handle on the sleep, because it becomes a big catch 22 if you don't get the sleep right. So it's really important to look at the triggers for the hot flush. Look at, are you drinking too much caffeine? Is there alcohol? Is there spicy food? Is there stress? You
Mm,
need to look at all of these, all of the possible triggers. Look at the nights where look at the nights where you have more hot flushes or night sweats. What happened? What did you eat during the day? Look for the triggers. Um, and then just look to obviously tweak things. But
mm,
it's the hormone decline, but then at the same time, it's kind of how your body is reacting to that change, and the important thing is how you are supporting it
yeah.
through the change.
Mm. And what about then bladder habits? But this question
Mm,
is relating to menopause. Bladder habits changed in the latter part of perimenopause, but they haven't improved. So this lady is okay during the day, but then she needs to go 2 or 3 times a night, particularly gets into bed, lies down, haven't gone to the toilet, and 15 minutes later she has this urge to go again, but then she
okay.
can't really go. So up 2 or 3 times in the night, I think that's quite common, isn't it? And then
It's
sleep.
it Yeah, it is. It is. And on the kind of the urinary side of it, I always advocate. I really encourage women to, at some point in the journey, tie in with a pelvic health physio, because it's really important to have somebody check internally
Yes.
how things are, how the muscles are working, that you're doing your pelvic exercises correctly, because we know
Mm,
a lot of times they're not being done correctly. Um, it's not a matter of just squeeze and clench. We know that doesn't work. That's not the way to do it. So there's a lot more to doing the exercises. Um, it's really important to look at that. The other thing I would say there is, I would be straight away thinking vaginal dryness, because of the frequency at nighttime. And that can often be one of the earlier symptoms of vaginal dryness, where it might be that the urinary frequency becomes more common, and there might be a little bit of itching, a little bit of inflammation. You'd also look at is it painful sex, things like that, so that you get a whole picture of,
okay.
is it or is it an aggravation kind of on the urinary side? Is it like a bladder aggravation? And then again, I would go back drinking alcohol. Are you drinking too much coffee? What is happening the few hours before you go to bed? Remember, with caffeine, it stays in our systems for many hours. You're generally talking about up to 5 to 6 hours. So if you're having a cup of tea, at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then you're going to bed, caffeine aggravates the bladder. So it's kind of looking there at, the triggers and kind of what's going on. But it's very, very common, very common.
Okay, that's a good thing about the. I know Milltown Physio is.
Maeve Whelan.
Yes, very good.
Maeve is my guru.
Yes, and it is well worth the visit, and I think people, it's so worth it. People might be
it is
a medical thing, but I mean, you're totally put at ease, and it's very effective.
And you have to think about it. Like, let's be really practical here. I don't want to be in pads when I'm 70 or 80. I don't. Yeah. So what you do now is making sure that you're setting yourself up. I always say you're future-proofing yourself so that you're keeping yourself healthy. We're all living longer. So, hopefully we'll be bouncing around in our 80s and 90s. Yes. But, we need to make sure that everything is working as best as it can in those years. So it's really important that we kind of, we have, you have your support team that who to go to when, maybe you just want to check in, is everything okay on the bladder side and urinary side? Etc. Yeah,
exactly. There's this very specific question here from a lady who is suffering from itching. She describes it nearly like her skin is crawling. It's in the area around her back, her bra strap. So I did give you that question before. So it's going on about 3 to 5 years. She's been to a dermatologist. She's had blood tests, so she's not a celiac. It's worse first thing in the morning. She was on HRT, she has come off it, and she's doing a more of a holistic approach and kind of doing a hormonal detox. She's only a month in, so it's early days. Have you come across that?
It's skin, oh God, crawling. You'll often hear women will describe it like there's spiders under their skin, or there's something crawling under their skin, that it can be that intense. And no matter how much you scratch it, it's still, kind of still, adding or causing hassle. One, when it comes to the skin, water, we said earlier, is so important. It's also really important to kind of to yes, the hormone decline will impact the skin, we know that, but it's really important to look at how you're supporting it. So your diet, fresh fruit and vegetables, that you're really kind of putting as much goodness into your gut health as you can, so that you're allowing your body to thrive with the good gut bacteria, and that you're kind of adding the goodness in there, the nutrients, vitamins and minerals that you need, because it's hard. We know we're not absorbing as much as we get older from the food, so it's really important to make sure you're getting good food in, and just supporting the body. Supporting the body comes out a lot in the skin, in the health of the skin.
Yeah.
So if you look at, say, I mentioned earlier about our liver and how key that is in the menopause journey. A lot of times our poor liver, we just put it under constant pressure, constant pressure. And if we don't give our liver the tender loving care it needs, it gets hacked off.
Yeah.
And one of the symptoms of that is going to be, it's going to come out in your skin, in addition to the hormone loss that's happening. I would really be looking at diet there. I'd really look at the gut health. I'd be really looking at kind of really trying to support your body through diet. Also, if you're using, like, remember, our sensitivity, we become even more sensitive as we get older. So what are the shower gels? What are you using in the shower? Is there anything there that possibly could be aggravating it? Are you using any moisturizers? Is at the ingredients in the moisturizers, and just check what's in them. And if you can, just try and go for something that is good and natural, because if the itching is that intense, it sounds like possibly you could be itching it raw. So you want to be quite careful there that you're just kind of, you might need to just put a very deep, intense moisturizer, or even something like coconut oil, which we mentioned earlier,
I was
can
just
be
going to say,
really, really good.
I'm really a
Um,
great fan of coconut oil, Catherine. And maybe this lady's on, I know she did say that,
yeah, no,
you
I
know,
love
she
it.
is looking
Yeah,
after her health and stuff, or her gut health. But even things like, I know she said she's not celiac, but sometimes if they're, as you said, if it's coming out in the skin, it's coming from the gut. And
yeah,
sometimes even
yeah.
removing gluten from your diet for maybe 3 months and really trying to support it with bone broth, and really trying to rebuild the gut. Even if you're not a celiac, gluten, as we know, can break down the lining of the gut, and that can lead and manifest into skin conditions. So maybe omega-3, plenty of your oily fish, and things like that.
Yeah,
Maybe that
yeah,
would help.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I would just the first place I'd be looking would be the diet and just
Yeah.
the gut health, and kind of understanding what's going on there. Particularly, too, I think you mentioned that she's started a new kind of regime. It could well be, has the skin just started since this, so it could be the body is flushing
No, it's
toxins
going on.
out.
It's going on for 3 to 5 years, because I went back
Oh,
and
right.
forth just to
Okay.
try. So it's
Okay.
going on for three
Okay.
to five
Wow.
years. She was
Okay.
on HRT, but she came off. So she's
Okay.
trying to sort it. But okay, so
Okay.
she's working with
Yeah.
somebody, I think. Anyway, look at, we've
Okay.
given her a few pointers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just on that, there was a couple. There's a question here on the link between menopause, thyroid, iron, and ferritin. And I see somebody else has put in a question here about trying to lose weight with menopause, but also a thyroid issue. But I know you can't cover everything, but is there a link or sometimes a confusion between symptoms that could be menopause or thyroid?
Oh
Um,
God, yeah. Oh
and
God,
then
yeah.
and
I
then the
mean,
iron and the ferritin levels when they drop.
yeah.
Could we just
Yeah.
talk a couple of minutes about
It,
that?
it's
Yeah.
totally. I mean, that's what I was saying earlier. That's the importance of the blood test in terms
Yes.
of um, you want to rule out that there isn't a thyroid issue or that you're not anemic. If you look at many of the symptoms of both in being anemic and having a thyroid issue, can look like perimenopause: palpitations, panic attacks, anxiety, exhaustion, inability to sleep, weight gain, weight loss. There's so many of the symptoms that look like either thyroid or being anemic. So that's where it's really, really important to do that check-in with your GP on a regular basis, so that you kind of understand, is there anything else here that needs to be ruled out? We know that in Ireland in particular, our level of thyroid is very high. And a lot of it tends to trigger after postnatally. Many women can go into hypothyroidism, after kids and so forth. It's very, very, very common here. So that's why I just always kind of say, get the bloods checked, because you could be presenting as perimenopause when in actual fact it may be something else. Now, that's it. Just it's like it's not one size fits all at all.
I know it's very
And
difficult.
I see there's just a comment there. Yes, antidepressants should not be a first port of call. It goes against the NICE guidelines totally. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a shocking, and it's not just Ireland. It's the same in the UK. I know it's the same in.
The line is going there, Catherine. Catherine, I can't see you now. I don't know whether the audience can. If anyone can type in to see if it's just me. Oh, Catherine, I don't know if you can see me or hear me. No. We missed you there, Catherine. Catherine, I think I couldn't see you, and I don't think I think you were gone for the last minute or so. We are definitely having problems with the Wi-Fi. We can't see Catherine. Okay, she's frozen. Can you see me, Catherine? No, can't hear you. Okay. I'm not sure what we can do. We may have to finish it off and maybe do a part 2, because I still haven't got through some of the questions, and I know people had posted. I did see one question there about where you can go for pelvic floor physio, and we had mentioned Milltown Physio. Maeve Whelan there is a fantastic lady. It's frozen. Okay, and I'm here on my own now. Okay, she's gone. Picture back, but can't hear her. She's gone completely now. Okay, well, ladies, I'd say what we're going to have to do is finish it up, because Catherine is gone. But let's see, can I get her back in? There, hold on. I've sent a request to Catherine to get her back in. Oh, hi, Catherine.
Hi, I don't know. Have you got me there?
Yeah, have you back?
Yeah,
You were
yeah.
gone.
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened there. I was looking through some of the questions, and just in relation to pelvic health physio, if anyone is looking for a pelvic health physio, drop me an email. I have a very good recommendation list. So if you're not in Dublin, drop me an email.
yeah.
Otherwise, Maeve Whelan, you'd mentioned.
I answered that when you were gone.
Yeah.
And that question did come from a Dublin-based girl, so I know.
Oh, great. Okay.
There's
There was,
yeah, go on.
yeah. Go on. I can't see any of the other ones now.
I'm
So
sorry, and I would love to be able to get rid of the questions until the end, because you're covered and you're the main feature, but I can't. I don't know how to do that. I don't know the way to do it.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, there's questions around weight gain, perimenopause. Okay. I mean, that is one of the symptoms, and yes, metabolism slows. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, and is there a good all-around supplement for someone who's in perimenopause?
Just on the weight gain, metabolism slows down, no two ways about it. So this is where it becomes even more important what you're eating when you're in perimenopause. And like we mentioned earlier, it's your fresh fruit and vegetables. It's looking after your gut health. It's watching the foods that we know kind of rob our body of nutrients, sugar, etc. So that's really, really important. What was the other question that you asked there?
Supplement. I forgot.
Oh, supplement. Yeah. If you're in perimenopause, if you're in the beginning, if you're just in the beginning, if you're mid 45, you just think you're starting, I would say a good all-rounder, you're looking for B vitamins, omega-3 and vitamin D. I mean, I could talk for donkey's years on vitamin D. And a good all-rounder is Menopause, which is an Irish product. I research all products that I recommend really like intensely, because obviously I'm very aware of the fact menopause is becoming such a big industry. So it's really important to me that, many times women will send me a message and they'll say, Catherine, I found this on Google. Is it any good? And I'm like, run away. Don't go near it. Yeah. It's really important. Whatever supplement you buy, please understand the ingredients in it. Take the time to understand what's it going to do for your body. How is it going to help you? What I like about Menopause, as I mentioned, it has the B vitamins, the omega-3, vitamin D, all of which are key. I often talk about the holy trinity of vitamins for starting perimenopause, and that is B vitamins, omega, and vitamin D. And then anything you can add in on top of it, then fabulous. Yeah. B vitamins are essential, like your nuts, your, any food that has your B vitamins, and often it's fortified foods or it's your meats. And so if you're vegan, you need to be very, very careful, or vegetarian, that you're supplementing your with B complex. Yeah. Well, B complex, I think as a whole, because the Bs work so well together that they kind of bounce off each other. And I know B6 and B12 are two of the most important ones, but there's other ones there that are equally as important. So I like a B complex, or getting, a good amount through your food, through your supplements,
Yeah, it was it was just when you said the vegan. I thought
Yeah.
particularly they're not going to
Oh,
be
yeah.
And what about magnesium? Obviously, we can get it in our green leafies and stuff like that. But, and again, magnesium, God, there's so many forms of.
Anyone who knows me knows that I'm always talking about magnesium. It's funny. I was on I was doing a corporate the other day, and there was about 200 odd on it, and someone asked the question in the chat box, what form of magnesium do you answer? When I was going through the questions at the end I was laughing because someone had answered, oh, Catherine loves Mag 365.
Oh, so do I. Cheers.
There's so many different forms of magnesium. I've spent years researching magnesium. To me, magnesium ticks so many boxes in perimenopause, but the key is getting the right form. Mag 365 is ionic magnesium citrate. It works beautifully into your body. It's assimilated really quickly. I love it. I've been using it for years. I've gotten to know the family who develop it. It's ethically, everything about it. It ticks so many boxes for me. And it's such good value. I mean, I think you buy a tub of it for about 16, 17 euros, and it lasts you weeks. I mean, I take it every single night before I go to bed. And sorry, that lady earlier who was mentioned about the hot flushes, magnesium would be a fantastic addition. And you can take magnesium whether you're on HRT or not. So that would be a fantastic addition, just a teaspoon before you go to bed.
Yeah, it's like it's they call it nature's tranquilizer.
Yeah.
And actually, the good thing is, because I think some of the magnesium supplements that I've seen, they have vitamin B in them, and of course, if you take them that at night time, that can excite you a little bit as well. So I think that beauty about the Mag 365 is that it is just magnesium.
It's honestly, it's to me, it's gold standard. It's Miracle Grow.
Miracle Grow.
Yeah,
Catherine, like, there's still a couple more, but I think we're coming up.
Go on. We let's go through them.
Well, let's go through them. Wait till we see.
Yeah.
We're coming up to the hour, and
until it cuts us off.
Well, you see, I'm concerned that I can't save it if I go over the hour onto my IGTV, and I don't want to lose it.
No, it'll cut you off. It'll tell you you've got a minute left, and then you have to go, and it'll let you save. Don't worry.
Okay. There's a lady here has asked about postmenopause. What supplements do they change?
Postmenopause. Okay. Postmenopause or in menopause?
Post.
What's
the difference when you say in menopause? I mean, I consider perimenopause and then your menopause for the rest of your life.
Yeah. So in perimenopause, if you've got hot flushes and all these other things going on, you might want to look at different supplements. Whereas if you're postmenopause and you're not getting hot flushes, but you want to protect yourself, so you want to look after your heart, so you want to be making, you definitely want to be getting a really good omega-3 in, which is going to protect your brain and protect all your body, really, because omega-3 is a tough one to get no matter how much fish you're eating. It's a hard one. So I would certainly be saying, it's looking at something that supports your heart. Like there's a lot of I think, is it called Cardio 50, I think, is a product that's out there which has some really good ingredients to look at if you're post-menopause. I certainly look at that one. But I think what you're looking at then is it's your heart health, your bone health, your brain health. So, and I would go back again to magnesium. And if you've had a DEXA scan to look at your bone strength, then you might need calcium. But certainly I think if you're late 50s or 60s, I would have hoped that you would have had at least one DEXA scan, if not more. So then you would look at, do you need calcium, magnesium? We know when it comes to protecting our bone health, you're looking at four key elements, and that's magnesium, calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin K.
Yeah. So do you recommend you take a vitamin K with the vitamin D so that it absorbs it?
Yes, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, big time. I mean, ideally there's definitely fast changes coming in the vitamin D sprays now, which is great. And I think a lot of them are starting to include the vitamin K, which I think is really good for kind of the age group that we're talking about. So, you know, and very much so if you have osteopenia or something like that where you need to look at the bones, then I would definitely be making sure that you've got those 4 key ingredients.
Okay, brilliant.
And through diet obviously as well. But we know, listen, vitamin D, vitamin K through diet, tough.
It's hard. It's tough. Liver is
tough.
the form, isn't it, of vitamin K?
Yeah, it's tough though. Like, not many people are going to eat that, you know.
Hot liver.
Yeah, I mean, I love it.
Liver.
I love it, but I can tell you many, and I think, you know, I speak with many women, they don't, and I think it's because, well, I don't know, my mum used to give it to us religiously every week, and I'd say some people have gotten to hate it, maybe, you know.
I know it is. It's like you love it or hate it, but it's great. Chicken patty is a great thing to get it in. But anyway,
it's probably a bit like Marmite.
It is, isn't it? Like, I do love it. There's just here, and I think this is the essence of it. I think confusion and brain fog, right? Is it normal? Can I have some reassurance that it happens from time to time? And I think this is a lovely question, because I do think there's an element of fear. You know, to start forgetting things. And you know, I say, both my parents, one had Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, the other had dementia, and you know, I suppose you can start to forget things, and you wonder if now I'm in menopause, I've gone through it, but there was a time when you're questioning what is actually going on here. Can we talk
totally
about that?
I guess my mom has dementia. She's 90 and she hasn't known me now for a couple of years. So for anyone who, you know, understands that, you'll know it's a very slow form of grief. It's a rotten journey, to be quite honest. There's no sugarcoating it. It's very tough. I think very valid. I mean, I think you've been on some of the lives we've done with Dr. Sabina Brennan, focusing on brain fog. And I would say to anyone, if you are concerned about brain fog right now, that challenge is live on Facebook with Sabina. It will close down another week or two, and we're talking all about beating brain fog, and definitely of benefit. You can definitely feel like you are showing signs of early onset dementia when you're in perimenopause, big time. I think the key is understanding how brain fog can look when you're in perimenopause, and understanding, you know, is it just the odd thing? Is it, you know, how severe is it? Is it impacting on your daily life? And then it's obviously looking at that in terms of what you can do to support yourself. You know, and I think that's really important. I mean, you know, like, there was one lady we were talking to recently, and she was saying how she put the carrots in the tumbler dryer. You know, we've all got a story in terms of, you know, something going haywire, but it's a very valid fear. And what I would say is, understand what brain fog looks like in menopause. I've talked a lot about it. I have a lot of blogs on it on my website. You know, certainly read them. Understand what it looks like, and then understand what you can do to help and support yourself.
I hope that helps. I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Actually,
I just see here there's a question on essential oils. I'm a huge essential oils fan. I absolutely love them. I use Botanical is an Irish brand, Botanical Carl, I think he's called, and I also use The Nature of Things, and also Flora plus Fiona Hedigan has made up some fabulous blends of oils. So I have a huge array of essential oils. Some of the best ones in perimenopause are bergamot, orange, atlas cedar, rosemary. Rosemary is brilliant for brain fog at any stage. You know, any of the essential oils, you're going to use them the same as you would use them at any life stage, in terms of bergamot's uplifting, you know, lemon is uplifting, orange is very good for mood. So it's kind of just picking them based on what you know in terms of how they can help. And certainly those ones I mentioned are absolutely fabulous. I might see if I can, I'll see if I can post some stories. I think I'm mad busy tomorrow, but over the next few days, I'll post some stories and I can tag you, Louisa, and then you could
Lovely.
share them.
That would
Because
be
there's some really nice ones around at the moment. I prefer, and I'm going to be very politically correct here now, I prefer to know where my source of my essential oil is coming from. I like to know exactly where it's coming from, even if it's a blend, if it's a mix of a few different oils together. I like to know where they are coming from. And to me, the ones that I work with are either Irish or European and can be sourced back.
okay.
Yeah. So
Okay, I'm just clicking here. Actually,
yeah.
Dr. Sabina Brennan is joining me next week. So if anyone is
Oh,
interested
brilliant. Yeah.
in that,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
there was a question further up, and I took a quick note. Low AMH, does that lead to early menopause?
It depends what age.
I don't know if she's still watching. She can just say way back.
Yeah, that's your anti-Müllerian hormone. It's a big one when you're kind of looking at fertility and so forth. Um, you'd, I'm guessing that's possibly. I'm just guessing here. Is that somebody in their late 30s? Is it someone in their 40s?
I don't know.
Um, if you have a low AMH, it is talking about your egg supply, your egg quality.
Okay.
It's not going. It is looked at when it comes to early menopause, and it would certainly be looked at in relation to POI as kind of a trigger, or not a trigger, as one of the identifiers for kind of where things are at. But it's kind of, what age are you? What level is the AMH? I think by the sounds of it, I'd say that person, I don't know, is
Okay.
there the fertility journey there as well? But certainly, yeah, you would just be looking. If you're in your early 30s and your AMH is low, I'd certainly be asking the question of, what's the FSH level at? Has your estrogen been tested? Have you had other more extensive bloods done? That would be a question I would definitely be asking.
Okay. All right. I hope that helps that lady.
Yeah.
We mentioned a part 2, and they're all saying part 2, part 2,
Oh
part 2.
God, that'd be me now at this stage, because
I
I've got a
know.
fair few.
So
I've
busy.
got a fair few lives.
I know. There's one here, touching on
Mhm.
low mood. And again, but that is what
Yeah,
we're saying.
yeah.
It is.
It,
And I think, we didn't touch on it, but obviously
um,
stress and cortisol and
yeah.
adrenals and estrogen and that whole connection.
I did a video, I did a live on Facebook. I think it's Mags is asking that. I did a live on Facebook about 2-3 weeks ago, and I talked about anxiety. So if you're on Facebook, have a look back and maybe have a look at that.
Okay.
I it's one area I've been asked to talk about again. So I might just try and see if I might just do a live on my own accounts, and chat about that at some stage. So
That would be great.
just keep an eye out for that, because
be
it's a big one. It's a big one.
But
Yeah.
even 10 minutes, 5 minutes of breathing or meditation and journaling,
Yeah.
which I love.
Yeah, I mean, look at the video I did today. They're all laughing at me because they're looking out of all the rooms. My kids, they're like saying, "Why have you got compassion written up on the decking?" Because I was out with chalk this morning. But look at that in terms of low mood. Actually, I would say the starting point is, please look at the video I did today, because the more and more women that I work with, and I love the work that I do. I'm so privileged. I'm so lucky to get to work with so many amazing women. But I do feel sad we can be so hard on ourselves. And I just think we need more compassion. We need to show more self-compassion for ourselves, particularly when we're going through menopause, because it's not easy. It has its ups and downs. It has its hurdles. And until you find what works for you, whether it's HRT, whether it's herbs, whatever it is, until you find your sweet spot, it can be difficult. And that's what I try and do. It's try and kind of help and empower women, with the information to kind of get there,
Yeah, and it's so worthwhile.
Nirvana.
It's so
It
worthwhile,
is.
Catherine. And I think
I love it.
That
I love
point,
it.
I just think that's the essence of it. We're so quick to help a friend and put our arm around them and tell them it's okay and tell them they're fantastic and tell them that they can overcome whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yet we're very slow to do it to ourselves. This
big
negative
time.
self-talk,
Big time.
and we really do need to be kind to ourselves. And I know it's a cliche, but you have to believe it. And
no, I'm going to start banging on about this now. It won't be vaginal. I won't be talking about vaginal atrophy anymore. I'm going on the self-compassion trip, because I just honestly every single day I have a conversation with a woman about it, if not even it's more than one.
I'll come on that journey. We can be the new Thelma and Louise.
the ninjas.
Yeah, it is. It's
but it's really important.
Catherine, you're fantastic. I mean, you look after people privately. You do work in the corporate. I know you're really trying to raise awareness in the workplace to open that conversation about menopause, which is it's important, and there's a lot of women in that category of 45 to 60, and
it's a big one. I mean, I'd love to, I'd love that we get it on the secondary school curriculum. That's my big thing. I'd love that to happen. I think I've been really, I think the workplace is actually happening. I think it's slow, but it is happening. I think more GPs are seeking training. It's nowhere near we want it to be. It gets about 4 hours in their overall training in college, which is a joke. That needs to change. But I also think my boys are lucky. They know a lot about it, but no, majority of other kids don't. Thank you, Mary. Mary Dunn. But I would love to get it into the secondary school curriculum. That's, on SPHE, that's kind of, but right now, unfortunately, nobody's looking at anything because of COVID, and, it's hard to get change. I mean, it's fantastic. Diane, my friend in the UK, it's happened. They have it on the curriculum in the UK. It's going to take us a bit longer here, I think, but, it's things are changing. Honestly, I've been in, I've lost track, to be honest. I've been in so many government departments over the last couple of months doing talks. I'm in workplaces every single week now. So that's a huge step forward,
Fantastic. Catherine, thank you so much. And if people need more information, obviously they can contact you at Warrior.ie.
Or just follow me. I'm inundated with DMs on Instagram at the moment, so I would actually say you're much better off emailing me. It's much easier. You know this, Louise. It's much easier to keep track of an email than it is the messages on Instagram.
But Catherine, I know you're busy, and I know actually I've registered for your event in Cork tomorrow. I saw that been advertised.
Oh, did you?
I did. I know, but just learning and finding out.
Can you register if you're not in the university?
They
advertised
it, and
brilliant.
Yeah, and
great.
Yes, and they opened it up to everybody, and it's free.
Okay.
And I just think, so I applaud you. I think you're fantastic, and thank you very much for.
God, you'd be tired listening to me, Louisa.
No, I love it. I just, love it. But thank you so much for sharing, and I think we covered all the questions.
Yeah, brilliant.
And so
brilliant.
Thank you so much. I'm sure your mouth is dry and you're ready for bed. I'm sure this week.
I have a big day tomorrow, but anyway, tomorrow's a big one. But it's great. It's all good.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, I hope everyone is taking no more screens now. It's no more screens, and it's wind down, bedtime rituals.
Did you say wine? Did you say wine?
Wind down. Wind down. It's a school night.
I have my chamomile tea here. There's no fear of that.
I know. I have my mint tea here.
No. What are we like? Thank you so much, and good night, everybody.
Yeah, night, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Catherine.
Bye.
Bye.